Good afternoon. On behalf of Telecom Review colleagues, I welcome you all, and thanks for staying with us at this time. As you know, new technologies emerge continuously, fueled in part by this COVID-19 that we are living today. Experts and markets, they recognize Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, clouding, 5G, and others are the tech industry winner technologies. So today, it gives me a pleasure to welcome our esteemed panelists to talk about emerging technologies, its advantages, disadvantages, its impact on our lives, on their businesses, sharing their views, and mapping the opportunities these technologies offer for us and for them. Welcome and good afternoon. Dr. Bilal, I will start with you. You are the Chief of Study Groups Department at ITU. So the emerging technology is a buzzword and used in many contexts. Working with ITU, what exactly is an emerging technology and how ITU approaches these technologies and work with it?
Thank you, Shafiq. Excellent question. Actually, let me take the fact that today, as we speak in Geneva and around the world, we have about 400 engineers from all the companies present here today developing new fiber optic standards to enable the 5G. We are working on beyond 400 gigabit per second DWDM, working on Li-Fi as a new connectivity for 5G, G.fast, which reuses the copper infrastructure to put gigabit per second speeds on top of it. So I'm starting with the connectivity standards that are enabling the 5G. These are the things we don't see in the commercials and in the commercial discussions, a lot of discussions we see today, but they are fundamental to building the network infrastructure for today and the future. Other emerging technologies that are, and these are more evolutionary. It's an evolution of existing fiber optic technology. We were talking about beyond 400 gigabits per second. We're reusing the copper infrastructure for G.fast. The light wave communication, Li-Fi, is a new ITU standard. So in a way, it's an evolution. But there is a suite of new technologies that are completely new and really transforming the security infrastructure. We are talking about the quantum key distribution as a new protocol to secure communication on the fiber optic network. Data centers need to have absolutely secure communication. A few years ago, the Swiss government had its data centers all connected for voting services, connected with quantum key distribution protocol to secure that fiber optic connection. Today, we have 7 new companies in ITU who are working on this protocol because the traditional security of hash functions is no longer strong enough. With quantum computers, you can break those hash functions and you need something stronger. So these are 2 examples of an evolution of technology, and another one which is really a breakthrough as completely new way of using the properties of quantum, of the photons, having those 4 states, and being able to base the key that is encrypting the traffic on that photonic property that cannot be spoofed or changed or modified. And all of this infrastructure in terms of connectivity and security is giving us an opportunity, as we heard today, in terms of all the data that is collected from the network, to manage the network in a smarter way. 5G, with all of its requirements for low latency, high bandwidth, massive connectivity, and the slicing and all the things we heard about, is putting new pressure on the operator to manage the network and orchestrate it in a more intelligent way by reusing the data that's coming from the network elements and using AI and machine learning. On that, we are very proud that the operators here in UAE, DU and Etisalat, have been part of our sandbox for using machine learning for 5G. They were part of the challenge that we ran in 2020. TDRA was a proud sponsor of the challenge. And that created a whole new skill set in the operator community of data scientists that are using the new technologies to optimize the resources of the network and provide better capability, better ways of managing the 5G infrastructure. I use that as a concrete example of machine learning and AI because we hear a lot of talk about it, but it's important to really explain how it is used, what it is based on. Maybe I'll close this introductory question with a topic we heard today about monetizing 5G, because this region of the world was among the first to deploy 5G, but when you look at today's service, it's just about more bandwidth. And me and you as an end user, we're okay with 4G. 5G just gives you more capacity. Where is the killer app? And the killer app, we had the CXO meeting yesterday, the Chief Executive Officer meeting that was kindly hosted by Tony and Du, where we had 52 CXOs, 17 here in Geneva, actually 22 here in Dubai, and about 50 online. The biggest discussion around monetizing 5G is how do you connect 5G with the digital transformation? When you go to the health sector, you need low latency. And there we have dialogue with the WHO, where we're bringing doctors and technologists to transform the digital sector. That's digital health. The other vertical where we're quite active is with the transportation. Every car that is sold today has 2 SIM cards. One for the management of the car, and the other is for infotainment. And that makes it an IoT device and needs an identification. So in ITU, we're almost running out of phone numbers because we all have a phone number for our mobile, but our cars have a phone number, machine-to-machine applications have phone numbers. We're getting new companies almost on a daily basis asking for international numbering resources from the ITU to identify their M2M and IoT on a global basis, because it's not in one country. So if you're in UAE, you get the UAE country code. But if your car is roaming in Europe, you don't want a European country code, you need a country code that is assigned by the ITU directly. So this digital transformation coupled with 5G is really going to be the killer app, the new use case that is going to allow the operators to monetize 5G.
Thank you, Dr. Bilal. It's very interesting. And this gets me back to the lack of the internet resources as lack of bandwidth, and our discussion this morning about the challenges in connectivity that the region is facing. I will get back to you in the second round, Dr. Bilal. Thank you so much. I will go to Bernard. Hi, Bernard. Hi. So AWS provides solutions to operators and to network, to ISPs and other operators. And these solutions, it helps these operators to solve a lot of common problems and build faster services. So my question for you, Bernard, is the following. How these emerging technologies shape the market demand for AWS?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Shafiq. And I like the point which you mentioned, Dr. Bilal, about the killer app, and that I would connect to this one during my answer to Shafiq's question. But allow me first to answer with a personal reflection, going back 15, 20 years when we had companies like Blockbuster and Kodak, which went bankrupt. And why did they go bankrupt? Because they were thinking linearly, and it was mentioned this morning as well. There was a linear forecast business planning. And at that time already you had the exponential business development, and companies which did not follow the exponential development really went bankrupt. And you had companies like Netflix who took over. And so where we are today, we have a disruptive impulse, which nobody expected. And this disruptive impulse was the COVID and the emerging technologies, which at that time caused the exponential development, are playing a role here again. So what is in this market environment where you have this disruption, what is the role of the emerging technologies? And to understand what the market demands are going to be, you really need to look at the role of those technologies and how they drove cloud adoption and migration. And then what I would like to look at is how the CSPs and the telco operators really answered and met this demand, and what did AWS do in order to help the CSP and the operators to meet this challenge. So first of all, the role of the emerging technologies and the cloud adoption. What did this cloud adoption do? It enabled us to handle the pandemic. It gave us options and flexibility to look at the continuously changing situation. If you think of the pandemic, the initial situation was very disastrous. A month later, it changed. 2 months later, we had a completely different situation. And it kept on evolving in a very, very dynamic way. And it is this latest technologies which allowed us and gave us this flexibility to answer to those different kind of situations. What we have seen is a very accelerated and strong cloud migration and adoption. What we also have seen is a long-lasting change in behavior, reducing the barriers and the hurdles of cloud adoption. And that is throughout the society, going from individuals to small companies to large enterprises. Everybody was willing and wanting to go to the cloud in order to be able to respond. And that obviously gave the positive opportunity for the industry, for the CSPs and the operators. And we have here a lot of examples. For instance, we had the situation of the working from home, or the home education, or the unified communication, collaboration tools, the creation of virtual societies and communities. We even had cloud computing or cloud technologies which helped the development of one of the major mRNA vaccines. One of the top 3 vaccines was fully supported by AWS technologies in order to respond to the speed needed for the development of this vaccine. We also saw requests coming from governments, for instance, to come up with call centers, to be able to apply the track and trace systems in different countries, or even the application for tracking and tracing. The whole health industry was suddenly digitized. We had the government asking us to bring up a call center within 2 to 3 months. And actually what we did, it was 2 weeks' time. And the reaction was, wow, how can this be done? But that would have not been possible in normal times because the request was not there. So we had a lot of demand coming from the health industry, from governments, created by the pandemic, but also what the pandemic caused was a continuous optimization of processes in different industries, in manufacturing, in the supply chain, in logistics, in order to respond to the different situations where we had online shopping that impacted the retail, or we had the working from home. We had to provide all kind of solution, or the necessity to be able to respond to peak demands, be it for the PPEs, for hospitals, and those processes all had to be adjusted in order to be able to be agile and adaptive to the situation. So that is what we have seen. So how did the CSPs and the telcos respond to the situation? Was that they had also to transform. They had to respond fairly quickly, and that kicked off the digital transformation of many CSPs, where instead of taking 4 months' time to come up with the innovation, it was done in 4 weeks. And instead of spinning up computing or storage capabilities where you would normally need 6 months to build a data center, this was done in 6 days and less. So this digital transformation started to happen with the operators, and that is what is going to continue now. It's not going, nobody is going to accept anymore that an innovation, a new use case will take months instead of weeks to get to the market. So this is what happened on the operator and telco side. And then what did AWS do to help operators? I would say we work very closely to reinvent the network communication. But in general, I would say on 4 topics. One is the network cloudification. The second would be the operation simplification. Third would be the customer experience. And fourth, the growth and the monetization. And that's the killer app. I mean, how are we connecting now the demands from the market to the 5G? Because you need the 5G in order to be able to deliver all these new services. So from the network cloudification, here we work very closely with telco operators to orchestrate scalable, secure, software-defined networks. And here we speak about telco workloads, some like 4G core, 5G core, or even the workloads related to radio access networks. And for instance, here we're working very closely with Telefonica, who have taken the AWS Outpost for the utilization for use in Vivo Brazil, for instance, to run the 5G core for their 5G network. The second point is operations simplified. That means that when we look at the IT, the network IT and the enterprise IT workloads, and we move those to the cloud, there's an automation which is happening, and accordingly, less human intervention, a simplification, and that's where the cost optimization and the simplification is coming. For instance, here we are working with Deutsche Telekom, and we built a cloud center of excellence to migrate and transform the whole Deutsche Telekom network. On the other side is the customer experience, and when we look at our dear CSPs and telco operators, data is the oil, is the power of which CSPs have those days. And if you combine the data with AWS services such as analytics, AI, and ML, you can create very personalized and predictable services. For instance, you can look into a predictive maintenance where you avoid an outage, which is going to end up in an improved experience, coverage, or customer experience. And here we're working with Bell in Canada to do that. I know, we discussed about it this morning. And then last but not least, it is the growth. So here we're working with telco operators as well as with the Amazon Partner Network, and that's a very large partner network, as well as the developer community, to work in innovating and developing use cases for the enterprises together with the CSPs and creating a joint go-to-market, which is maybe not going to create a killer app, but there's going to be a massive amount of apps which are going to be able to monetize the pipe. And here we're working, for instance, with Vodafone in the UK, where we have launched already the 5G multi-access compute edge in the UK, and this is going to be launched with AWS Wavelengths. And we are going to launch still before the end of the year in several other countries. So there are lots of opportunities which were brought up by the new market demands. It's a train which departed. It's going to continue, and it cannot be stopped.
Thank you, Bernard. It's interesting. I like this ecosystem framework that you put involving the apps, the technology, the operators. And going back to Canada, I will ask Samer. Samer, tell us, invest a lot now in artificial intelligence and machine learning. So what are the drivers that push the artificial intelligence to the forefront now? We heard a lot about 5G, about clouding, about Internet of Things, but we didn't heard a lot about artificial intelligence, even though there will be the future.
Yeah.
So what you can tell us about this?
So first of all, I want to say thanks for inviting me. It's an honor to be among such experienced and very thoughtful leaders in telecom. And that's really the trait that Telecom's Review has always, in the past 15 years, been able to produce, which is this decent, extremely experienced level of attendance. So thanks, Tony. TELUS's approach is a little bit different from approaching customer challenges. We decided a while ago that I think the best way to address customer challenges is to be sitting in their chair. So standing or walking a mile in their shoes, you'll be able to understand exactly what sort of challenge they're facing. And that led us to, in various verticals that we decided we're going to focus on, acquiring certain business verticals, application verticals, that complement our connectivity and network services product portfolio. So I'm not going to tell you we were at least twice this year the fastest network in the world. That's insignificant to the end user. It's good marketing, but very frankly, it's insignificant these days. I think what matters is what you bring to the table in terms of solutions. Some of those solutions we acquire. We actually go out and acquire companies. In the agriculture vertical in Canada, we've acquired 7 different companies that focus on AI and machine learning for data analytics from farm to fork. So anything that touches food and water and the supply chain, and the data analytics from in the farm all the way to the fork with the customer, we've actually been very active acquiring this IP, and it becomes TELUS property. So now we can go to the customer and say, we understand your pains. Here's how the connectivity and the services around top, such as AI, can be bundled together. We do this in partnership in terms of providing the services, as Bernard was saying, and as Bilal was saying earlier, there is an ecosystem. You can't just simply say, here's my pipe, take it or leave it, because there will be alternatives. If it's not our standard competitors in the CSPs, we're seeing satellite providers, low Earth orbit providers coming in, and regulation sooner or later is going to allow for much more diverse competition. Our partners are now offering private 5G networks out of the box. I forecast, by the way, here's a prediction, in 5 years, any new CSP is going to come in, download his core, his radio, he's going to be shipped some radio devices, he's going to install them, his billing will be on the cloud, and then the SIM profiles will be shipped to the devices and you pay per use. Probably less than 5 years. If you're seeing private 5G now being deployed on the cloud, normal 5G for consumer will surely soon follow. So that's a vertical, agriculture. In health, we've acquired the same. Now, what's the dependency on Loli? Does every AI need to run on the edge? Does it require Loli? Does it require 5G? No. The answer is no. It really depends case by case. And again, our approach is let's work with our customers to decide what is the right approach for the right service that we provide. We're extremely customer focused. Our approach was 5G, so many capabilities. So ultra reliable, low latency, massive IoT, slicing. Great concepts technically. We're testing them, but we're testing them with customers. In health, for example, we chat with our hospitals in Canada. We actually did multiple trials to demonstrate how 5G can help a connected ambulance not only get video, bi-directional video, but augmented reality was used with medics right now in Toronto, showing them how a medic on the field can actually get 5G coverage, not only in the ambulance, but also when they're doing their job and they require support from the emergency doctor. So bidirectional video communication, augmented reality to show how a specific procedure needs to be done. The doctor can verify injection of certain substances, all remotely. We control autonomous haulage vehicles in another industry through on-prem edge computing and dedicated EPCs on-prem private networks. So I think AI is an enabler, and the skills that are required for us as a telco is our approach to acquire those skills is a combination of build, buy, and partner. And within these three categories, depending on the priority of our customer base, we take some of those regionally, but we take a lot of those solutions also globally, like we do with TELUS Health Solutions. And I think the prediction is in a few years, as the relationship between the application developers and the subject matter experts and the change of mindsets. I was talking to Bernard earlier. We as CSPs are very proud of our capabilities in building great networks. But we have to be humble about our capabilities to take software solutions to market. This is a new concept. So we will partner with those who are able to deliver those in the right agile methodology to our customers, and we will in-house develop the capabilities to do that. So we started to hire tens of data scientists to develop our own AI models internally. We've started to acquire companies. We certified over 100 employees on Google GCP, right? My apologies. But the idea next is AWS once Bernard signs the deal. But the idea is we want to make sure that we are future-proof, and the only way to do so and be ready for the waves of AI and Web 3.0 with all its, and by the way, there's a big risk to hyperscalers, so they better be ready for it. That is going to be the way. The methodology is partner, learn, execute, build your own, or acquire it.
Thank you, Samer. No doubt that this methodology will impact all the businesses. Now let's hear from the operators. They are not your competitors, but they complement what you are doing.
Correct.
Dr. Ayman, Edu has begun its cloud journey, I believe, 5 years ago. So what you can tell us about the advantages that clouding gives to you as an operator?
Great. So let me summarize 4 years of very hard working to transform our cloud. So we started by consolidating the network and IT infrastructure together. And we started by our data center. So we modernized our main 6 data center with fully data center SDN. So this will be the brain. So the 6 data center will be seen as a big fabric. So you can easily migrate workload from one data center to another seamlessly. This is the first topic. And then we have our private cloud, which is mainly hosting the IT workload. We started with very simple virtualization. As of today, we have 90% of our workload virtualized on top of this cloud for the IT workload. And on top of this cloud, we have deployed a hybrid cloud platform. This hybrid cloud platform will provide infrastructure as a service or platform as a services for any internal customer. And then we have integrated it with public cloud, so we can provide private, hybrid, or public cloud even from a single console that provide end-to-end management. So this is the story with the IT cloud. And then Telco Cloud, we have deployed an OpenStack horizontal cloud, and we started this to host all telco workload. So we started with the virtual ABC that we have started back in 2017. The same core we have deployed it. It's currently supporting all technologies from 2 to 5, including 5G MSC and 5GC. This OpenStack cloud, we deployed on top of it an orchestrator in NVO, part of ETSI. And then we are hosting right now virtual ABC with all relevant nodes, virtual IMS, and IPTV, and many other nodes. So we can talk also 90% from the network is cloudified right now on top of this Telco Cloud. On top of these 2 clouds, we have a service orchestrator that will orchestrate the service and stitches the surfaces between teleco, IT, and customer interface, and provide single portal to the customer. Not only this, so this is a summary, what we have read today, and how we're able to reduce or to scale out our network with the demand. Sometimes we have a bundles like 1 gigabyte for $1 dirham, and we're able to scale the network to double the capacity to support such a demand. This is one of the advantages we have with the cloud, okay, because you have the resources, you're able to expand as you need. And also recently, we are extending this OpenStack cloud to a converged container platform where we'll host IT and telecom on the same platform under the same end-to-end orchestrator. So we are slowly, or according to the capability of the technology, we are migrating our workloads from being a monolithic to microservices with containers. So we are ready for all different workloads. And we will not stop here. We are extending our data center to the edge. We have a very successful POCs. Maybe you have seen the one with AWS. And actually, we are trying several approaches, either with our teleco vendors like Nokia and Huawei, and also with AWS and Azure. We are exploring all the options. Definitely, there is advantage with public cloud because you can, especially with the emerging technology, it's not only the hosting. The hosting anyone can provide. It's easy. But once you have an edge use case, you have a factory, for example, with 1,000 CCTV. Instead of sending all of this traffic to your main data center, your central data center, you offload this traffic, break it out from the factory directly to the internet. And you have the capability of the hyperscaler at the edge, where you can start calling some AI models, do whatever you need. And the customer, exposing the API, with the API era, we can give the customer the flexibility to develop his application, to develop his use cases, okay? And even we just provide him the capability, the enablement to do so. So this is in a nutshell summary for our cloud transformation journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ayman. This is a good example for monetization, Dr. Bilal. So let's hear from another operator, Diego. I will continue with the same question, but this time, what the cloud add to your customer experiences?
Okay. Faster scalability, but I will come back to that one.
Okay.
First, let me congratulate to Tony and the team for the event. Really amazing event. First time here, so thank you for the invitation. I was so overwhelmed on some of the sessions. I'm not an engineer, so I had trouble following a lot of the things, but we're here. One of the common things that we heard, I think, during the whole day was, I think, how we were able to adapt faster to the whole situation. And I was just listening to what they were saying, and we did it. From the telco side, we adapt with the new normal, the new requirements from customers, the profile of investment that we had to do, the IT changes, et cetera, et cetera. So it was a really a mindset change that we had to adapt to, a big one, actually. And the one that embrace it is the ones that are ahead of the game or are getting there. But if you look into the resilience of people, how people adapted as well, it's just amazing how as customers or people adapted to what's going on today. Going back to the question is when you look into cloud, we think it's natural now. And I think all this situation created a very strong marriage, partnership between telcos and data center providers and cloud and all that, because we needed that fast scalability. So, and that was key for us, because otherwise we couldn't react to the demands of the customers. We start with the customer, we end with the customer, and that was very important in order to adapt what we're going to do. And I think that the situation created a very nice partnership, a very nice ecosystem and attitude that created created the value using cloud more and more. We don't think without cloud anymore. I mean, think about it. IoT, you need all this capacity, the processing. It means less CapEx investment for us, you know, a lot more flexibility, faster go-to-market. Just thinking, Qatar, there's going to be a big platform of services IoT called TASMU. Out of the 107 services, 85 are going to be on cloud. As simple as that, you know? So that's the value that we get. So that cloud and partnership for our customer means we are able to come to them to meet their needs faster and cheaper, actually.
Thank you so much. I believe, yes, businesses and individuals need to adapt with this clouding technology to succeed. And that gets me to Dr. Marwan. Something caught my eyes, Dr. Marwan. I think 5 years ago, you said in one of your interviews that cloud computing will drive digital transformation. How you saw this coming?
Thank you very much to all of you, and thanks to Telecom Review and Tony for inviting me here. I'll give maybe 20 seconds about the background of the company I come from so that it's not an opportunity to do ads here. We are focusing, Al Khalijiyya is focusing on managed services, mainly on disaster recovery as a service and cloud migration to the cloud from shift and left to optimizations to SaaSifying. I remember in Saudi Arabia at that time I was with Mobily, the first, I would say, cloud services that are really serious where you can invite enterprises were brought by the business unit which I was leading, and I started in Mobily in April 1st, 2011. And by the time I left, there was about 70 large organizations migrating to the cloud already and running their businesses from the cloud. And so including universities, for example, Electronic University at that time was fully running from the cloud. To understand, why these things are happening is that if you look at the digital transformation that's happening, digitizing our life, the digital transformation of our lives, everywhere you go and wherever you look, you'll find that there is a digital footprint left by the users. These kind of digital footprints generated huge data, so they're so-called big data. And this has got to be processed in order for you to remain competitive, in order for you to improve your products and services to make them smart, if we may say, in order to improve customer satisfaction. No one will work with you if you have, excuse my language, a dumb product where someone else is competing with you with a much smarter product. It also helps in reducing cost. So you have to look at ways of reducing cost. For example, in insurance, if you can get the data from the mobile of a driver for a while, and then you build a profile for him, you can reduce his insurance policy for the car, okay? The same thing applies for other things. Now, the cloud offers a great opportunity for organizations to compete without really investing heavily in infrastructure internally, and also, don't have to hire very scarce talent and skills. So this is usually the big service providers, the CSPs, the cloud service providers, are offering these services on your behalf. In another way also, it helps in providing things like analytics, augmented analytics, where you don't have to hire data scientists to analyze your data and come up with insights from the data that are gathered and so on. With that thing, the trend was very clear. I think at the time in Mobily, we did 2 studies, one before we started the cloud. It was 1 year before. And then we did another one later on, a year after that. The propensity of enterprise leaders and CIOs to move into the cloud was really improving, and improving in such a way that it shows that maybe 4 to 5 years, okay, the trend would really be a cloud. Now, the cloud is not really, I would say, if you may call it a panacea for everything. Okay, there are certain cases now which are evolving, like autonomous cars and self-driving cars and so on, where edge computing is playing a much, I would say, important role. Then you cannot just send every information that the sensors capture and then come back to the car to take an action. Okay, it will be just too late. By then, maybe neither the car nor the driver would exist. So Again, there are certain challenges with cloud computing, and being a managed service provider and I would say a transformation, I would say, agent in this region, we came across a lot of learning lessons from implementing clouds and migrating to the cloud and managing services in the cloud. Some of it are really tough ones to learn, but eventually we managed to. For example, we have one of the banks, without mentioning the name of the bank, where we completely have a disaster recovery on the cloud for them, but it's a private cloud in Saudi Arabia, hosted in Saudi Arabia, where everything from the core banking to even the Swift machine are replicated on the disaster recovery, and we do drills every several months with them, and then they run even money transfer transactions on the Swift, and it comes exactly as if they are running it on their primary site. So in order to deliver on the cloud, again, it's not something that it's not something like it looks easy, okay, and then eventually you follow that. You have really to take a lot of precautions, and you have to do a lot of analysis, and sometimes even auditing of the service provider, the cloud service provider that's going to offer the service, to avoid, I would say, breaching any compliance or regulatory requirement in the country you are in.
Thank you, Dr. Marwan. It's interesting what you said about this was a trend. So I come back to Dr. Bilal. Talking about Internet of Things or clouding, there was one of the speakers this afternoon, he said that these technologies are not new technologies. They are here since 5 or a lot of years. So what is the emerging technology exactly? Are they innovations or they are development of existing technologies?
Excellent question, and I was really thinking, because we were short on time, on how to put it succinctly. If you heard the panel today, it is about fusion of the compute and the telecom sectors. AWS, operators, cloud, and so on. So this fusion and the companies that can do that convergence and that fusion as quickly as possible will determine the winners and losers. And the winner and loser is really not going to be determined by the technology, but more for the application of the technology in terms of the digital transformation. And that is based on the dialogue between the two parties in that digital transformation. Whether it's healthcare, you have to have the doctors who need the technology to do their work better, and the technologists that are going to provide them the AI for health, for example. Transportation, you need the automotive industry, the road transport, and the new 5G network that can connect you for autonomous driving. You talked about agriculture. You need the farmers and the whole sector of agriculture, the new machines and so on. So succinctly, it is the fusion of the compute and telecom industry with all these new technologies that are available. IoT is there, the data centers are there, the 5G is here today. How can you combine and orchestrate all of these technologies together, leverage the data, apply new machine learning and AI with the compute that is now available, and AWS and many providers are providing you that compute capability to meet that dialogue of the digital transformation. Yesterday in the CXO meeting, we had one of the speakers that talked about only 30% of the global GDP is now taking advantage of ICTs or digital. The other 70% of the world GDP is still physical. There is no digital in that physical space. And that's where the bulk of the investment will go. So the winners and losers are going to be determined by that dialogue and the fusion of the technology to meet that 70% physical world that has not been transformed.
Excellent. These are great statistics. So one common point, we agree that all these emerging technologies give a lot of opportunities. So for AWS, Bernard, what are the challenges that AWS facing to deploy these kind of challenges or these kind of technologies on your platforms?
With all humility, we don't see challenges as such. The only challenge we see as AWS is to be able to capture all the growth, all the opportunities. So it's more of an opportunity for us. The difficulty is more on the partners or on the telco, where it is, the question is, how fast can this digital transformation happen and the migration happen? And surprisingly, it is not a technical problem. It is not a technical challenge about routers or connectivity or anything like that. The first one is the cloud culture in the company. Second one would be the competence. And the third one would be the pace of innovation. Those are the challenges which are existing. So the cloud culture, what we have seen is that it is very important when a business or CSP decided to proceed and to go for the transformation and cloudification, that this is undoubtedly going through the whole organization and coming from the top. Senior management has to be committed, has to make it very clear that this is going to happen. And the best way, the most successful transformation happen when there is a very challenging target given to the organization, that this has to happen within a short amount of time. Because then the efforts are focused and there is no challenges internally. Change management with humans is very difficult by nature, so it has to come from the top. So culture is one important aspect. The other one is competence, skills, and experience. And here, what I would like to say is, or quote Andy Jassy, CEO of Amazon, is there is no compression algorithm for experience. You have to have the time to take it, and you have to go through the whole process. What you can do is to acquire skills, and you have to develop the competence of your organization. That is very important, and we have seen as well the most successful companies in migration are those who acquire these competence in the most efficient way. And then the third aspect, I would say, is the pace of innovation, which we were discussing before, is you will have the enterprises in the B2B segment who are in the field competing between each other, utilizing latest technologies, use cases, provided by the CSPs. And if some CSP is not going to be able to innovate quickly enough, then you would see a migration of those businesses to this CSP who is going to be able to provide the innovative technologies and use cases. So it's going to be a race who is going to be able to provide at the fastest pace new use cases, latest technologies, and that's where it is important that the digital transformation and the cloudification, the cloud adoption, happens as efficiently as possible and as quickly as possible. When these three topics are resolved, it's going to be fairly easy.
Thank you, Bernard. Thank you so much. Samer, you signed, Telas signed recently many partnerships with international players. How this will help your businesses in supporting your customer with digital transformation?
That's a really good question because, I think there are different pieces, as we were saying, a merger between, telco and cloud. In each one of those, we identified, again, whether we buy, build, or partner, the specific partners that we want to start our collaboration with. So just yesterday, we announced a multi-access edge computing partnership with IBM. IBM, Red Hat OpenShift is our existing partner in developing our NFVI layer that we've been hosting on our 4G core for the past 6 years. So that journey for virtualizing our telco assets started a while ago. And now we are expanding our core centers towards the edge. And IBM is building the orchestration layer in addition to the actual pods where those microservices will be hosted on-prem within our customer sites, but also in a multi-tenancy offering. We also recently announced various partnerships. Obviously, the biggest one, again, I'm sorry, Bernard, Google. Google came in with a very, I would say, very operator-friendly ecosystem. I mean, there are multiple hyperscalers and cloud partners out there. I think, one of the key reasons we partnered up with Google was the extremely operator-friendly ecosystem. It is not a take it or leave it approach. It is one that is based on co-development with operators, which is very different from the rest of the hyperscalers. خلاص ماشي. And I think as we move forward, you will hear in the next few weeks also partnerships, because we're building an ecosystem which is, again, very customer-centric. We are building a marketplace-facing ecosystem that allows us to bundle our core propositions with partners' propositions. For example, a small, medium-sized business that wants connectivity, plus some SaaS products, plus some devices. We're building an ecosystem to digitally offer this end-to-end in a seamless manner. And again, now we own the data in the back end. So I'll use an Amazon example. Yes. We'll use the store mentality, digital store, and we have an acronym we use internally. We call it LBGUPS. The customer should be able to learn, buy, get, use, pay, and get service for all his telco products or partner products that are using the telco services from one terminal. And partners can equally buy and subscribe to these services. So these are the various pieces. If you look at some of the most recent innovations and to complement what Dr. Ayman was saying earlier, the methodology to get to the right ecosystem really depends on ideation, proof of concepts, a lot of learning, and to Bernard's point about open-mindedness, you will find that we invest a significant amount of time doing POCs and pilots, which are extremely custom. We're not doing this in our labs. We're doing this on-prem with customers, because that's the real use case that then solves for the larger equation. And once you do this across health, across IoT, and by the way, we just announced this year, we won the biggest connected car contract. So all of General Motors vehicles in Canada, existing and coming, will be over Telus' connected 4G and 5G network. So we're actively now doing the interconnection with them and to their connectivity management platform. And that means edge computing. That means slicing. Do we immediately offer it? No, we will go. We actually fitted first the test bed in Canada, in Oshawa, in Ontario, with a 5G lab. This was the first thing we did, because then you're able to say, hey, how do you think you want it? How does your end user look at it? The in-car entertainment system, to your point earlier, what parts of the telematics functions need to be on edge compute and which parts don't? Like, you don't need to put everything on edge compute. You really need to make sure you have something that is tailored to the use case itself. So trialing, again, to Dr. Ayman's point, trialing these POCs and pilots are extremely valuable for us to learn these basic building blocks, and then identifying which ones we will own and control, because we want to make sure we control the quality of the network. We want to ensure that we design based on our three principles of privacy by design, resiliency by design, and security by design. So these are telco principles that will see their way through, force their way through into the cloud, and ensure that our partners who want to work with us adhere to the customer's best benefit towards the end.
Congratulations for your GM contract.
Thank you.
But talking about the clouding, so an essential part of to connect to clouding is the connectivity. So back to the operators, once again, Dr. Ayman, we know that 5G now is the driver of this digital transformation, and will be the main connectivity for clouding. So what are your plans regarding 5G, especially the 5G standalone architecture.
Great. So just one step back for LTE, when we have the evolution for the LTE, it was very clear that the killer application is the smartphone and the broadband, as highlighted by Bilal. But with the 5G, yes, we are not able to identify one killer application. So this is why we have started the 5G evolution very early, 2015. We have established a consortium of like 20 partners in UAE, and we have established a lab what's called the UAE 5G Innovation Gate, U5 Gate. And we have tried to build customized use cases here in UAE for the market of UAE, even before the standardization was completed. And we have showcased several demos and several POCs during 5 years of GITEX with this lab, with our partners. And then, thanks to our vision to have the cloud and to virtualize our packet core, as I said in the beginning, our packet core that serving the 3G and 4G, we have just, with software upgrade, it's supporting 5G NSA. And we were the first in UAE to launch our 5G NSA back in May 2019 with the first 5G smartphone. Again, the industry was rushed to launch the 5G, especially the legacy telco vendors. They were pushing us to deploy the 5G. With the 5G NSA, I can tell you very clear that it is just a layer of the 4G. You have higher capacity, okay, but latency will remain the same because you are connected to the same core. Again, the virtual ABC with the 4G. So latency will be the same. The additional use cases will come with the 5G SA, where you will modernize your core. You'll modernize your core, you'll take it from monolithic to microservices. You need to move from VM-based to containers-based, and then accordingly, you can expose your APIs to your partner, and you can start. You have an open ecosystem to develop and deploy use cases. So as of today, as we have launched already our 5G NSA, we have 3 carriers. Okay, we have aggregating 2 carriers right now. We have 2.6 and 3.5, and we have 2 carriers actually in the 3.5. So from capacity point of view, we have enough capacity. Even in this room, in this conference in the morning, I was conducting some speed test. I was reaching 1.2 gigabit per second with such attending from I think maybe half from both sides. So we can enjoy this speed. Sorry. And then, as I said, our next step is the 5G SA, where we are going to evolve our packet core again to support new use cases, ultra-reliable low latency use cases, edge use cases. But again, we just need to be careful because usually there is a lot of forecast or high number of forecasts similar to the IoT. IoT, we started the journey in 2015. Everyone was talking about 10 billion, 20 billion, 50 billion, but let's focus about which one will be with the operators and which one you can build a positive business case. And for example, you have a very successful use case here for the fire alarm, which we have really customized a lot of pieces out of it in our lab that we have established in 2015. So the journey is still ongoing. One of the very important use cases, and again to the lab point for the killer application, it will depend on different markets. For example, here with Du, we are using the 5G as fixed to provide triple play services. And we have huge number of customers today once we launched our product. Okay, now it's in LTE and it will be very soon on the 5G once we can launch it. In addition to, we have like half million subscribers today on 5G network. We may have similar fixed subscriber on the network. We have huge capacity, and we can offload our LTE network to the 5G. In addition to the other use cases that we'll be able to build with the introduction of the 5G SA.
Hello. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Ayman. So we look next to see the 6G. I don't know when, but Diego, what about Vodafone Qatar? How you see your role helping in this digital transformation? And what differentiates your network from other operators' network?
I think during the day also we touch a little bit of this. Of course, you need to have all this technical elements and a network that performs. But I think it's more on a big shift in the mindset of the leadership to accommodate the digital transformation. And, you know, you always talk about digital transformation, agile, and all these words, but at the end of the day, it's how we approach the challenges and the experience we give to the customer. And I think if you do that right, the halo effect that gives to the consumer is incredible. I'm telling you, we used to connect fiber within 3 days, now we do it in 4 hours, you know, because we just put the challenge we needed, COVID came, the demand was high, so you just start figuring it out on the way. So I think more than only the technical part, I think it's a great opportunity to reinvent yourself and to create a mindset, a shift in the mindset of the company, and to embrace it very fast. You know, we are complex by nature, telcos. We make things complicated, you know? And I think to have, this is forcing us to think about not simplification, but radical simplification and very fast. And also changing the structures of the company, you know? How the marketing is going to be structured, how the digital part, where it's going to be reporting, IT and networks, IT should be marketing. I mean, and that constant change and constant try and error, I think it just brings a lot of speed, not agility, a lot of speed into the difference. So more than you need to have a network and IT stack that performs. In our case, we changed in 9 months what we created in 9 years. So it was a big push, but it's a leadership mindset that I think makes a great difference and huge halo effect.
Thank you, Diego. We are running out of time. My last question, Dr. Marwan. Each new technology comes with its challenges. Based on your experience, what kind of challenges these emerging technologies we will face or will see in these next years?
Okay. You know, these technologies can be used, it depends on how we use it. It can be used to improve our lives. It can be used in maybe AI-based autonomous weapons, okay, that would cause a lot of damage to humanity, okay? So, in my opinion, it depends, number one, how we're going to use these technologies. They are transformative in nature, okay? Secondly, if you take, for example, just the cloud we're just talking about, okay? You have 3 major challenges which anyone who wants to jump into the cloud has got to take that into consideration. One of it is cost. Cost might be sometimes deceptive, that it will be a lower cost, but you have to look at when your computing demands go up, okay, what's going to happen, okay? What will be the bill that we'll be receiving? It's also security. All the systems authenticating access for anyone to access the system from password and tokens and so on has got to be audited by the end user, by the client in a very careful manner to make sure that, because it's a cloud can be accessed from everywhere, it means that anyone can inflict damage from everywhere. Okay, it's not, you know, it's not like a device in your premise where someone could steal it and take the information out of it. It can be accessed from everywhere. The third area of challenge is really compliance, okay, for example, and privacy. Here, you have to understand that you could be held legally, you know, by your clients, and it's not going to save you that says, I completely relied on my cloud service provider partner to make sure that my data privacy is protected and that my clients are protected. Again, you have to pay attention to that. Eventually, you will be held responsible. For example, in Europe, you have GDPR, which is, you know, the regulatory framework for protecting data. But in other places, again, there are something similar, or sometimes it's even worse, that anyone could just go there and maybe initiate a legal case, you know, against you. Now, in other technologies, for example, you know, there are other kind of challenges, but because of the time limitations, I think I just wanted to focus it on the cloud.
Thank you, Dr. Marwan. I know that these challenges need another whole session to be tackled. Before I end this session, any questions from the floor? I know it's 6 o'clock. We are all tired. Thank you so much. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, telecom colleagues. And see you later. Thank you.